Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to my patch 8.6 note rundown. It's been a while since I've done one of these, even though if it's like every 2 or 3 weeks, right? I do one of these, but I feel like it's been a long time. Usually I talk about the current meta before I get into the patch notes, but I think outside the general idea that I would like the game to be more solo carry oriented, I don't exactly have too many problem areas with the game right now. It's like there's ways to make it better, but nothing super annoying like Ardent Sensor or unnerfed Banner of Command that entirely warps the meta and forces you to play around it. So I think I'm just good enough to just jump in, and I would like to do that. So patch 8.6 notes by Gustav. Welcome to patch 8.6, the next big patch in our little patch, big patch cycle. Okay, expect a lot of things here. For people who don't know, they recently switched to little patch, big patch cycle, which is like big patches similar to like the mid-season patches, but not as big, obviously. But still, they usually do quite sweeping stuff in these patch notes. And then the little patch cycles are the ones that slightly adjust any problem areas of the big patches. So without further ado, what else is there? This time around, we're looking at Duskblade, how it affects its core users. Okay, that's a lot of assassins. We think it brings too much power, but we want to make sure we gave those champions additional power. We're stripping some from Duskblade. Then we're introducing two new types of runes, one for people with... Okay, so let's see, it's pretty sizable. Duskblade changed, 2 new runes. Cool, let's get it started. Duskblade. Duskblade of Drakthar is OP, and it's problematic because it limits the amount of balanced design space you have to be able to adjust physical damage assassins as well as assassin bruisers, similar to Rengar. So what this means is that until they nerf this item, they can't adequately compensate a physical damage assassins because this item is a core part of their kits and it's too good at what it does. So really good for them to target this kind of stuff. What happens? Night Stalker damage 30, 20, nerfed it by a lot. So they pretty much have the damage, especially early, and they nerfed it 120 less than 18. And then the range damage is even less. So range people who were abusing this they're like old Ezreal jungle used to abuse this as third item. But for the most part, I'm glad they're delineating between melee and range. You pretty much won't see any ranged champion use this in the future. I do not think. Melee basic attacks instantly kill wards, traps are disabled. Oh, that's so nice by Blackout. That's really, really nice. Being able to one-hit those it means you can like kind of sweep an entire area very, very quickly. Blackout won't be triggered if the owner is currently using a sweeping lens. Yes, thank God. Because sometimes I overlap this without thinking about it, and this is just to help idiots like me, because I don't think about it. Thank you, Riot. Okay, these are quite big, huge damage nerfs. So what are the compensations for this? Graves. Okay, attack damage growth and magic damage increased. W cast and applies vision reduction more quickly. Okay, the windup was always one of the biggest problems about Graves W. It's really, really annoying. And the vision reduction applied more quickly. I think Smokescreen is one of the most powerful CC abilities in the game, similar to Nocturnality. So this is definitely kind of a huge buff. And Graves was never a champion that really hard relied on Duskblade. I've seen a lot of builds in the past go stuff like Cleaver PD without the use of Duskblade. And so I think champions like that had different paths that weren't flat assassins, similar to Graves, are only going to be very, very much enjoying these buffs. So Kayn, W and R ratios increased. Wow, it's not just on Blue Kayn, it's just overall? Okay. Oh, it is on Blue Kayn. Okay, never mind. The Blue Kayn and AD ratio increased, and this has got increased. Okay. I'm surprised it feels like they buffed Graves more than they buffed Blue Kayn. Even though I feel like Graves didn't use Duskblade nearly as much as Blue Kayn did. Anyways, Kha'Zix. Okay. Big champion, big problems. One of the best assassins, probably the single best assassin in the game across all roles. So what did they do? They nerfed the Q base damage. The ratio got increased. Isolated bonus got increased. Okay. So it now rewards you for finding people alone, which should be the initial case. W at the moment, the monster W damage in W ties Kha'Zix to jungle. We'd like to give him a chance to spread his means elsewhere, so we're swapping that power for a bigger Q buff than the Duskblade changes warrant alone. No longer deals bonus damage to monsters, which is jungle camps. So they buffed the AD ratio by 0.6? Well, I mean, I don't mind this idea. The fact that, like, yeah, Kha'Zix should be looking to find you isolated. Especially with the Duskblade nerfs, I think it'll be okay. I'm just surprised he's getting this much extra damage on isolated targets. I think right now he does a decent amount of damage. MF, she did go double pen. Okay, her bonus attack growth got increased by 100%. This seems awful. 1 to 2, like, cause it's just such small numbers. But look at this. He got a buff of 0.6, and she got, that's actually pretty good. You know, that's actually a lot better than you'd expect. Nocturne, our base damage increased at later ranks. Our damage ratio increased. Was this necessary? I think Nocturne's actually a really good jungler right now, and he's just getting more power. I think his ulti is actually, it's at the point where it's a little bit problematic. The full vision denial is too strong at the moment. I think that situationally this champ is like insane. Rengar, also huge on Duskblade. Q damage ratio increased, E damage ratio increased, R damage ratio increased. Okay. So Ferocity Lockout is lower, which is, all the bug fixes are going to be good for him, right? So they increased it by 0.1, 0.1, 0.1, and 0.2. That's not as much. Like, this is scary when they said that when it's increased by this much. When they just say it and you don't see the numbers. But here you see, okay, well, 0.1, 0.1, 0.02. That's probably not going to be. I say he's already in a decent spot. These buffs are going to be okay for him. I think he would have preferred having Duskblade, because that makes his champion a lot more powerful, of course. And I think that these buffs are completely fine as compensation stuff. The bug fixes are just to make the champion a lot smoother, thank God. Shaco now grants Shaco's next basic attack bonus physical damage. Just off the top, that's it. Okay, next damage now deals a bonus 10 to 50 bonus. Is that right? So he just gets a free ability. That's a weird compensation buff for Shaco. Huh. 0.7. The thing I'm most looking at is actually the ratios. I don't mind giving them flat 10 to 50 damage. That's a good compensation. But this is crazy. Like, I've been one hit by Shaco before, and he just goes Triforce Tiamat, and I can just die instantly. Like, he doesn't need the Duskblade to make me feel bad about myself. I feel bad enough. So going this route where I'm gonna get potentially popped, it's really, I think this is really strong. I hate Shaco, so like for me to say that it's strong, worrisome for me. It's okay. Talon, passive damage now continues scaling after level 11 until level 18. R ratio increased. Oh, it keeps scaling. Okay, it gives you an. I like that. I like that. The fact that it stopped scaling at 11, I didn't even realize, but it gives you an extra 70 damage. That's great. Extra 70 base. I love that. And the damage ratio on R is increased by 1, and the ratio should affect both opening and closing. This is actually probably the only champion that feels bad now. After the... This is probably the worst buffs for any champion. of all the like, I expected Talon to get a lot of compensation buffs, but instead he got not much at all. Maybe Kane is worse, but I expected a little bit more for Talon, to be honest. I don't think he's in a great spot. And so I would have liked to see a little bit more love than this, because Duskblade was how he spiked early. And him having extra damage late game isn't going to make the champion much better late game. He's still going to not be great late game. Same for this. So a lot of his power has to come from like how he snowballs early mid game. And him not getting compensation buffs around that time is going to be relatively bad. I'm going to go Youmu's and try to be more roam oriented, but I'm just not going to do that much damage. Wukong. Ability damage growth increase. Wukong. Was Wukong using Duskblade a lot? I guess you could use double peg cleaver on Wukong. Okay. Increased by 0.8. That's... his attack damage gain is 4. That's so much. Q ratio increase at later ranks. So, wow. Wow, that's actually really good. So 0.4 total... because the thing is, it's not bonus AD like the Shaco buff, right? Over here, it's flat total AD damage, which is much better. So 0.4 buff and actual growth, Wukong still has problems in the sense that he's not a great laner. I think scaling wise, Wukong has always been great with items and levels, but you can never get there. So I think maybe he's still gonna have a problem, but if you can get Wukong out of lane, he might be more of a monster than he was before. Duskblade. Q damage to target beyond the first decreased? Really? Landing multiple shurikens on the same target no longer reduces damage? Really? Really? Our damage amp increased at later ranks? Really? Did he need these buffs? Did he need all the buffs at this? Oh my god. Now, these are insane buffs. Like, I look at this and I look at what Talon got, and I'm just like, okay. Alright. Holy moly. If you get hit with multiple shurikens or 3 shurikens, with no reduction on damage, even 2 shurikens with no reduction on damage, it's gonna do so much damage. Like, they're just gonna disappear instantly at 6. Well, I actually like the way they did this because it rewards Zed for being creative with his shadows. It rewards Zed for being able to use, especially his W shadow, to add damage, being a lot more effective than it is on live. It may be too strong, but I mean, I'll spam this champ. We'll see. Kaisa. So I think this champ is really interesting. Similar to Ornn, right? Ornn people thought was really weak when they started playing and saw 5 buffs in a row, and then saw 4 nerfs in a row later because people were like, oh, Ornn's actually just OP. I think Kaisa kind of fulfilled the same thing where she was really weak on launch, and as people started playing her, they realized, well, she's not that bad. Like, if you can get the mid late game, she's actually really strong. So now we're at a situation where it's like, well, people realize that, and then Riot just like buffed. Like, these buffs look insane. Attack range increase, huge buff. If an AD just got 25 attack range, it got no other buffs, it's an enormous buff, worth so much. Helps you siege, helps you like space against trades, like helps you to like be farther away from danger. Range is such a good stat to have. And then you look at all this stuff where it's like, well, she gets more AP on the 5th stack. So her passive now works better off AP. Alright, that's kind of... Why does she get a lot of AP ratio buffs? Wait, what? Oh, this is an AP ratio decrease. But an increase with the buff W? Why is she getting AP ratio buffs? The range on cube is nice. She's getting so many AP ratio buffs. What the heck? I'll experiment with AP. I don't think she needed this many AP ratio buffs. The lockout is really good. Okay, one of the problems I have playing Kai'Sa is not being able to attack. Like, I understand the reasoning. It just doesn't feel good to not be able to attack on any champion. And so it's like you're CCing yourself. And so decreasing the lockout time is definitely going to feel a lot better to play. Her getting huge movement speed buffs on top of it, great. Killer Instinct, increased radius, and now grants on. Oh, thank God. I've died mid-air. Like, I want to use Killer Instincts as a way to kind of negate damage, but I've died mid-air quite a bit. Or, like, you just don't get the shield to the very end, and it feels kind of awkward. Huh. These buffs don't actually matter. The AP buffs, I don't think she's going to turn into an AP champion, right? So it really is down to just the supercharge buff, the range buff. And these are both great, like super good. I think I think she's going to be a pretty good champion. Generally, currently Kai'Sa has a really weak early game, whether it's in the jungle or AD. But I think after these buffs, she's going to see definitely more play. And I think that it might be worth it to try to go through a bad early phase if you're given so much power kind of going into the mid-late game. Lee Sin, passive energy return increase at later levels. Really? 20 to 30 and 10 to 50. Oh, that's actually so good. You could spam this so my problem with Lee late game is that when you got Cleaver and 40% CDR, you actually couldn't spam your abilities because you would go energy wise. But now this is really nice to be able to, so you can live like that like crazy 40% high CDR, at least in fantasy. Q range buff is really interesting. I'm surprised they looked to buff the range on it. Any buffs I'll kind of take on this, and then they buffed the Dragon's Rage to do better late game. So it ends up buff 75, 150. I'll take it, dude. All of these are just here pretty much to make it so that Lee mid late game is a lot easier to play. Because right now I think Lee mid late game is really, really difficult. I don't mind that. I don't necessarily even know if Lee needed buffs. But, I mean, I'll take it because I love playing Lee. 600 base is so much damage, too. Yeah, Levi's going to hit rank well with these changes, I'm pretty sure. The guy's a monster on this champion. Quinn, they're buffing Quinn? Base AD decreased. Attack damage growth increased. Many bug fixes. Okay, cool. So, they're making her growth better. Got it. Should have more AD past like level 6. This is insane. This is the only buff I needed to see playing. Okay, for people that don't know, I actually play I used to play a decent amount of Quinn. Juggle Quinn quite a bit. I used to play a decent amount of mid Quinn as well until she became kind of the point where you couldn't play her because she got nerfed so much. Oh, wait, I skipped Lucian. I'm so sorry. How did I skip Lucian? Okay, sorry. Base damage increased. This doesn't matter at all. Your level this last anyway, so I guess you get 25 more damage for hitting Blaze. Okay, and our damage ratio increased. Really? He needed our damage increase? Have you ever played Lucian before? His ulti does your whole health bar. This champ does so much damage with ulti. I mean, I guess I always like seeing Lucian buffs because I think he's really fun to play, but he's also a short range AD, so it's easy to abuse the play against him. But yeah, his ulti does like disgusting damage, and he has a 750% think LT. All right, I'm down for more Lucian buffs. Maybe this set puts him over the top, then we can just nerf him afterwards. I still think with his short range, it's gonna be really hard to play him effectively. Sorry, back to Quinn. Okay, let's talk about the most important thing, just this. What happens when you play Quinn is if you can't throw a empowered you can't proc the passive if your autos are in midair when the proc happens. Like if the proc happens mid-air and your auto's in mid-air, it will not pop the proc. However, now it will, which makes it so much easier to play, like not have to worry about like the timing of your abilities because you automatically get the proc, especially if they're the only one there. So like the auto proc that happens on nearby targets, if you kill everything around him, you know the proc will automatically come down, you're gonna proc it instantly on the auto, which is just fantastic. Like this is by far the best quality of life buff a Quinn player can get. Super nice. If this was the only buff Quinn got, I'd be so happy. Sky Strike now applies vulnerable to all champions hit. Wow. Taking damage while channeling no longer breaks the channel. Really? So you can just channel it and run. Taking damage from non-minions removes bonus move speed. Taking damage from minions no longer. Oh, but you still get popped if you're taking damage from champions. Okay. No longer slows Valor from minions. And enemy and champions just remove the move speed for 3 seconds. No longer goes on a 3-second lockout within combat. Oh, so you can just use it whenever? Wait, that's actually... These are such nice quality of life buffs. Like, this is what you want as a player who doesn't want to put in more power to the champion just through numbers. You just help fix up the problems of her actual play pattern in terms of like how she ganks, how she typically tends to fight or skirmish, and these solve a lot of the problems that she may get. So getting like free vulnerability, for instance, sure, your ulti doesn't have that much damage, but now you get to apply a passive that again automatically procs when you come out, right? That's so good. So before, like, you would be able, you like come out of behind enemy lines with E, right? But now you just go next to me, you can come out with like auto E, auto Q auto, and that procs 3 times. That's so good. I'm definitely gonna give her a chance, and the fact that it no longer breaks channel, that's so nice. I like a lot of what they did with this buff. This is like, what an elegant solution to our problems right now. I think maybe Quinn in the future still needs to get reworked, but this is a great way to kind of tide her over and make, I would say, Quinn players feel happy without putting too much power into the kit. Cool. Rakan. Q and R damage ratios increase. Is currently struggling when paired with most marksmen except for Xayah. Yes. We're looking to make Rakan more impactful with his own stuff. Okay, so they buffed AP ratios. That's cool. Actually, that's nice. 0.1, 0.2. E range is increased by 100, and bonus range for Xayah is... Oh, okay, cool. So he's better with non-Xayah champs. Cool. I like that. Xayah and Rakan no longer trigger feathers from each other. Oh, they make it so that Rakan and Xayah can't level 1 all-in with W. And generally the all-in is going to do less damage. I like this. I do think that Rakan and Xayah are super OP together. And without Xayah, Rakan has not done great, to be honest. I like that they're willing to split these up. I really do. I think that this is great. Irelia's Reverie. Wow, they brought it back. Okay. It's AoE Righteous Glory. For people who did not play when this was in the game, they brought Irelia's Reverie back. It's a great utility item. It's Sivir ulti. That's what it does. It gives your team huge movement speed for 3 seconds. Really short cooldown. Look, no, 60 seconds. That's super short. I like it though. I love that's back. It gives useful ways to hard initiate on different team comps. I like the item diversity. Cool. Abyssal Mask. Okay, this is a problem. So Abyssal Mask is an item that came from the original split of Abyssal Scepter, which was 2 OP. Mid laners bought Abyssal Scepter, and it gave defensive stats, offensive stats, and so it was the best single item to get mid lane. So what ended up happening was Riot was like, you know what, this is stupid. You know, everyone's going to Abyssal Scepter mid lane. We're gonna nerf this item to the ground. And they did brought in Banshees, which gives you no additional health, right? And then they brought in Abyssal Mask, which gives you no AP. However, turns out the AP doesn't matter when you get a damage amp modifier of whatchamacallit, 10%. So it turns out that like every mid laner could still buy Abyssal Mask and could use it reasonably, and on top of that, it synergizes with Tier to give you not only bonus AP but also a bigger shield. So Abyssal Mask was and is doing too much in the game right now offensively. So what are they doing? They buffed the damage amp. That's interesting. Oh, they're nerfing it so where the aura is much smaller. Okay, I don't mind that. I think this is good. There's a good solution. So it makes the item very niche. It's like, okay, it is a tank only item now, a melee only tank only item. A lot of the mid laners who are buying were champions like Cassiopeia, like Ryze, where their effective ranges are about 600, 5 to 600 in terms of effective damage. And so putting yourself at 300 range is, I don't know if you guys know, very short. Melee auto range is 125 to 175. So you're two like lengths away from melee range, which is pretty crazy. This does buff certain champions though, like Galio, which maybe could use some love in the mid lane regardless, and like Kassadin, which is actually a monster champion right now. It only gets better with these buffs. So maybe I would say this change is helpful for everyone, for the overall game state, except for Kassadin. And for that, I say I'll be spamming Kassadin next patch, boys. I'll see you guys there. Seraph's Embrace. Shield mana ratio decreased, shield duration decreased. Alright, I agree completely with this. I don't think finishing the Seraph's item should give me a 550 health shield. 600 health shield. I think that's way too much defensively. And so they lowered the duration and lowered the actual shield ratio. God bless. Super good. I think this item was way too good by itself. Dead Man's Plate. Slow is now magic damage instead of physical. It's underperforming at the moment, so we're taking the passive to give it some love. We like to sharpen his identity as an item for fighters to really shine when they get opportunity to move around the fight. So we're tweaking the way Dead Man Plates generates momentum. If you're able to lock the target down in place and prevent them from kiting, you won't get as much damage and you're unlikely to get a lot of slows. On the other hand, if you're darting around the fight or really reacting, you'll feel the full impact of the passive. Hopefully when fighters see this item, they'll see this. I'm not even going to read that. Okay. Now consumes all the momentum on basic attacks, even if it's less than the max stacks, dealing 1 damage per momentum consumed. Cool. No longer loses stacks while slow. Cool. So only triggers at max stacks unchanged. Basic attacking now locks out momentum generation until your attack timer resets. Yeah, I guess it's for people who can dash around the fight a lot, but even then, I doubt that Renekton's gonna buy this. Maybe only Irelia and like champions like Lee Sin are gonna buy this. I like that they're trying to buff this item, but I don't see too many people going for this anyways. I think maybe it helps out Darius, right? It helps out Irelia. I think Darius would really like this item actually, especially because a lot of how Darius plays is not by basic attacking. The biggest thing is like since basic attacking locks the lockout of the generation, you have to find a way for you to not attack but still keep the stuff. Okay, anyways, Rageblade. I don't think it's going to be that big of a buff or that big of a change. Rageblade. Cost decrease, attack damage and AP ratio decrease What they changed this item? Base magic damage on hit decrease. Ratio add. There's a ratio. Physical damage on hit added. What? Stack bonuses now scale with stats from other sources. Why? Oh, I know why. It's because this is actually a problem before. So let me read it to see that Rageblade was too good as a one item off buy. So it made champions like Kog'Maw and Varus so strong in one items that AD didn't have scaling. So scaling for AD ended up being one item. And so usually I would say AD should typically scale around 2 items. So when you think of ADs, you think like, okay, the IE Zeal item, that's when they hit their spike. And too many of the really good ADs were coming online with just 1 item. And so I think I know why they added a lot of this. It serves as an insane first item spike. It seems like they very much agree with me. They lowered the cost by quite a bit, 600 gold off. That's great. Amtome recurve pickaxe, easier to buy with the Amtome, but not that much difference. They lowered the AP by 25, lowered the AD by 10, lowered the magic damage on hit by 10. There's now physical damage on hit. The AP is no longer flat, it's scaling. AP attack speed per stack is total. Wait, isn't that so much better? 4% bonus. 4% bonus tax damage. At half stacks, melee champions next mixing attack fully stacks Rageblade. Okay, and it helps out. Huh. Well, generally they're just making this item to where it's much better at later items. So this is Rageblade is not going to be an item you pick up at around the 2, 3, 4 item spike for a lot of champions as opposed to the 1. That's at least how it feels like. So it's going to be interesting because especially this makes it very appealing to melee champs. At half stacks, you just pop it straight to full. And it's got really, really nice percentage AP scaling, which may open itself up to more attack speed AP oriented champions than first you like noticed. Because at stacks, this might be a late game item for AP champions that want attack speed. That's so weird. No, actually, I don't think they'd give up this much AP. Maybe. It's a lot of percentage. Well, we'll see. This item is definitely really... This needs to be nerfed, and the way they did it is about the same way that I thought that they should. I just don't know how the relative power level is now that there are so many adjustments. I can't tell at a glance how strong it's going to be. Anyways, GLP 800. This item still sucks, dude. Every time I buy this item, I think to myself, wow, I'm doing such a good job. And I look at my win rate with GLP. It's terrible on every single item or every single champion. Just keep reducing the cost, dude. At some point, I'm gonna buy this item, but I don't know if it's at this price. I want this item to be good, but holy shit, I don't know. Stack shift. Energized proc damage decreased to higher levels. No longer deals bonus damage to minions. Cool. I completely think that the idea of having rapid shift be the generic thing is terrible. Super, super bad. There's no reason why AD should have poke. Poke wave clear in the same and like relative safety in the same like combination that's core on every champ. Sure, if there's a situation where you need wave clear and you're going for this and it's not the meta build, I wouldn't maybe mind less. But I think this combination of items actually very toxic for the game. I think getting additional range should never be the meta choice. Always should be highly situational because range is such a valuable stat in the game. It is. A lot of times, the fact that you have to worry about like higher range individuals makes a balance around shorter range completely just nonsensical. Ignite. For a while, heal and teleport have been outclassing Ignite mid lane, especially in pro play. To increase diversity in submersibles, we're pushing more power to Ignite. I love it. Let me do more damage. I like it. Let's go. Heal. Cooldown increased. In general, defensive spells should have higher cooldowns than offensive spells. That is, if two opposing players use heal or ignite in the same fight, there should be a window where the ignite player has a summoner spell edge and can try to make a play. Currently, cooldown is too high or too low for players to take advantage. I like it. Give me more of this. Anything that pushes the game to killing people more and passive play less, I like. Super good changes. I'm all for it. Great stuff, right? Conquer a new precision keystone. We want to introduce a keystone for champions who excel in long, drawn-out fights, especially melee champions. After 4 seconds of combat, it's on any champion, or on any unit, not actually champion combat only. Your first attack against an enemy champion grants you 10 to 35 AD and converts 20% of your damage to true. Damaging enemy champions refreshes this buff. Refreshes this buff. I'm trying to think if that's crazy. At first glance, the first thing that comes to mind is this is insane. You're just gonna maul people. The idea that you get 10 AD at level 1 with this, and it does 20% of your damage, which at level 1 usually for most bruises is gonna be around what, 70 AD to true damage. Huh. Wow. I like how it's not even auto attack damage, it's just your damage period, like all of your damage. Interesting. Four seconds isn't that long because it's, think of how you proc grasp top lane, right? You're playing, you hit a creep, you hit a creep, you hit a creep. You don't even you hit a creep twice. The buff keeps you in combat, and then you just go all in. So it's really, really simple to stay in combat for 4 seconds. If you've ever played Grasp Top Laner, you'll know what this means. This is really interesting. Maybe this, for me, this keystone sounds insane, and I would off the top of my head think that for melee champions this means that you're gonna be just doing insane, just obscene amounts of damage on all ends, like especially for champions that tend to gap close really well and stick on people. We're talking like stuff like Irelia, where it's really hard for you to peel people off, or even Jax, which is gonna get like 4 autos on you and then all in, 3 to 4 autos on you and all in. You are not gonna be happy at playing against those champions. But maybe that's it. The game needs more of this like promotion of all in stuff. So you know what? If it's too strong and I see Irelia Jax every game top lane, I'm down to go back to season 2. Let's just see how it plays out. Off the top of my head, this sounds crazy. It sounds just super good. Especially because it competes with press the attack. It may not even be better than press, you know. But I think we'll see. Bone Plane duration decreased. It was intended as an anti-burst rune, but thanks to its long duration, it's being used as a generic anti-damage rune. Shortening the duration should make it less generically good by preserving its anti-burst power. Cool. I like the idea. I like the nerf. Good job. New Resolve rune in Resistance. Why is it a Resolve rune? Do people think this tree is weak? I think Resolve has great runes. Many champions, especially carry style, might want the defensive stats to get through the lane phase, but ultimately want the carry stats for the late game. This is the rune for them. Ooh. Start the game with an additional 60 health. When you get 4 takedowns, consume that health to get an adaptive 9 AD or 15 AP. Wow. I didn't know I wanted this rune until I read it, you know? Like, I didn't want it, and then I read it, and now I want it. So, why is Resolve Tree being stacked to the top with just great runes? Oh, they removed Iron Skin and Mirror Shell. We're adding much to Rune's landscape. They're largely flat stats and they feel compelling. We've added Chrysalis and Bone, and we're here to remove. Okay, cool. And Rune selection upgrades. Alright, so generally my thoughts about this is that it's cool. I like the fact that this is in the game as an option. I was worried that they overbloated the resolve tree, but they just removed this on the next thing. So I'm less worried about it. I like to see the page after. New or reworked runes will now have an indicator in the drawer that will auto pop open. Cool. Twisted Tree Line, I don't play this mode. One for All, I don't play this mode. Honor, after popping the hood on Honor, we're seeing that the path back from this Honor is a bit too harsh, so now it's less steep. There are no other changes to Honor. The requirements to move up from Dishonorable to Honor level 2 has been lowered. How do you even lose Honor in this game? Like, how much of a... Like, I don't know how they even go down in Honor. Like, do you have to just flame the shit out of your teammates every game? I don't know, man. I guess I don't know if this is a good or a bad thing, you know? I just don't know, because there's no real numbers around the situation. I guess all I can do is like, okay, that's happening, and just move on. Voice chat. Your party voice chat works for any party of 2 or more players. As soon as you join a friend's party, they're going to connect the voice chat automatically. Remain connected for as many games as you play together. Only works for parties that queue together. Your party connects the voice chat automatically right from the lobby. Automatically, that's scary. Every player can adjust their team's in-game volume by clicking the mic icon at the bottom. Oh, that's cool. You can adjust in-game volume. Bug fixes. Bunch of bug fixes. They have 6 skin, nice skin, 6 skin, incredible skin. Bunch of chromos that is just going to make them insane amounts of money, and new emotes. Okay. General opinions on the patch. Zed's insane. I'm surprised they buffed Shaco that much. I like what they're doing with Duskblade. Kaisa may be over buffed now. Lucian ulti does insane damage. Quinn, great buffs. I love everything they did with Quinn. Love the fact that they ended up, the way they nerfed Abyssal Mask, which should be positive for everyone, but like 1 or 2 people. Love they nerfed Seraph's Embrace. Love they nerfed Rageblade. Really like the nerf to Rapid Shiv as well. Love the Ignite heal cooldown. I love the bone plating nerfs. Generally a patch where I just read and I'm just like, you made the game that you have right now better. And it's good. It's super good. I liked it. I loved it almost. Now, I still think this game is still, you know, the overall problem I have with this game is that it's somewhat hard to have diverse metas in the sense that you can run multiple types of team comps. They haven't addressed that, and they haven't addressed the fact that bottom lane is significantly more important than the top side of the map. And I think that's a really big problem moving forward. However, the patch hit a lot of good problem areas, but the current iteration of the game, and it made the current iteration better. And I think that, you know, that's props for them. I would like on the next major patch or mid-season for them to tackle the fact that, you know, I would like to be able to run multiple styles of comps and run into situations that aren't oh man. I want to show you guys what I mean, because I think that I don't think you guys understand what I mean when I say the stuff I say. Because when I say that top lane isn't worth as much as bot side, I want to put some numbers behind that. And there was a thing I was looking at earlier today which showed the numbers. Let me look if I can find it for you. And if I can't, well then I can't, you know. But it's at least worth a little bit of a look from my end. I'm scrolling on Twitter, I just see pictures of I'm a cutie pie. God. Cutie, get off my feed. I'm trying to find this chart. So this chart essentially showed that going bot side and mid, Wanyu like 70% of the games with a lead, and going top lane, Wanyu like 52 or 58%. And I'm just like, wait, that's actually such a humongous difference for pro play. I actually can't find it. It was so far. Oh, I can't find it. But I personally speaking, I've seen that as well. Like when I look to gank stuff, I will look bottom before top most of the times. I think that that's a big problem in the game. Anyways, patch was good. Patch was great. Still think there's some problems in the game. Hopefully they fix that in the future. Let's talk Irelia. Irelia. Before we get into this, I'm just gonna put this out there. I've played Irelia, reworked Akali, their pre-alpha iteration of Aatrox, which literally visually had a placeholder for the champion, the model, and his abilities. So I barely count that as playtesting, and I have seen their next champion, which is one of the coolest ones that I can't talk about. Anyways, so I personally played Irelia. I played it against a Swain top lane, and so I know how the champion feels initially before anything else. So my feedback is going to be based on my personal experiences and what I'm reading here. So Tranquil as a C, Furious as a Tempest. God, a fierce defender of Ionia, really trained in ancient dances for people adopted for art of war, uses her graceful movements to levitate an array of deadly blades. The blade dancer cuts down any foe foolish enough to play at Conquer. Cool. Her abilities. So her passive, hitting champions with spells grants Irelia stacks of Ionian Fervor for a few seconds. Hitting multiple champions with ability grants multiple stacks. And basic attacks extend the duration. Each stack adds bonus magic damage to the basic attack. At max stacks, the bonus damage is increased against shields and Irelia also gains attack speed. So you're rewarded for hitting stuff and landing your abilities. And also, it does bonus damage against shields, which is something that has needed to be in the game for a long time because there's not much counterplay against shields at the moment. I'm glad they're bringing it into Irelia. She has two new things, brand new things. This is one of them. But this is definitely like the passive thing. Damage increase against shields, great. Needs to be done in the game. Shield breaker of some kind. Secondly, Blade Surge. This is the tried and true. I should have paused this. Q from Irelia right now. If it last hits a creep, it resets. Applies on hit. The thing that you have to note is it heals for a small amount when you land. So they give you the passive from the old W where you heal it and then put it onto Blade Surge. And if it's marked or it dies, it refreshes. Cool. Very simple. Very, very standard. What do you expect from Irelia? Now this is the weird ability. So when I first played this champion, I was just like, this ability is so weird. So it's similar to Galio W. It's almost identical to Galio W. So except for you can't move or attack. And then after you channel your ability, it deals damage like in a line. So it's there to make out plays on like large sources of damage hitting you, or if you're like finish your rotation and you're frontlining but you can't get out, it's there to tank like rotations of the enemy team's damage on top of you. It similar to Swain W. I'm not sure how it's gonna feel like in game, but she has she has parts of her kit that make her want to stay in and forces her to maybe stay in longer than she would like. And yeah, it can't be interrupted. It's Galio W. Just think it's literally Galio W. Okay, Flawless Duet. Sends a blade to... This is the cool one, okay? So, when you're playing against Irelia currently on live, it's actually really binary. Either if she has lower health than you and she's ahead of you, she stuns you and she can all-in you. And if you're a switch champ, you're dead. And if you're regardless of whatever, I think her play pattern is relatively somewhat linear and maybe a little bit boring for a kid. So generally, the overall Irelia rework has kind of changed her play pattern to be more skill expressive, and this is one of the biggest things. It's like her stun is now ranged, can hit multiple targets, and applies a buff to let you Q charge them for free. And you see the relative range on it. It's not short. Like, you have a lot of room to work with on your E. So you got the AoE stun, also lets you proc Q to gap close them. Okay. Let's talk her ulti, which is her adds the second thing that's brand new into the game that hasn't been done before. So the first thing was obviously increased damage against shields, never been in the game. This one, it disarms people. So let me show you what it looks like. I like to think of this as a Jarvan ulti. It forms a barrier that forces people to come in. Oh, Mumu has disarm? Wait, I thought Mumu just paralyzed people. Shit, okay, my bad. Then I guess only one new ability. I thought that Mumu didn't disarm, it just made it so they were CC'd, but I've never actually not playing a Mumu right now. I can't even say that. Oh, I guess I just didn't know. My bad. Okay, so it's the second person with a disarm in the game. I apologize. Anyways, Jarvan ulti keeps them in there, and it significantly slows enemy champs that pass through them. So it's not like they can't get out, but it's similar. I guess it pushes people in like Jarvan ulti, and it's like Thresh Box. Or if you walk through, it slows them. It also marks people and deals damage to champions, which lets you reset again. So the way that you express your skill while playing Irelia right now is going to be off resets off your E, off killing low minion health targets or low health targets, and off using your ulti to kind of control areas of fights. So I think it's really cool, actually, how you typically want to play Irelia right now. It's very, very hard to conceptualize a lot of these, especially in the heat of the moment. So she becomes definitely a harder champion to play. But I think if you're playing Irelia, you're not opposed to that. Like, you understand you play Irelia for mechanical like outplays and for like the ability to become skill expressive to some extent. So let me replay this one more time. And I definitely think having another disarm mechanic into the game that is tied like this is very good, especially with the strength of AD carries right now. This champion's kit is actually built a large part to counter the current style of play, which is a lot of shield-oriented champions or shields being able to be stacked on an AD carry, and the AD carry being stronger than any other carry in the game. And then you have a champion that does additional damage to shields, as well as, you know, has a ranged CC and can disarm them from relatively, I would say, decent range. Pretty good range, right? Yeah, I would say this is pretty great range. So I think that this champion in itself should have value if it's anywhere near, like, above average in the current meta as a good pick. Cool. Now let's see how they play it as Irelia, because I want to see how this works out. Great example of how they use W to negate initial burst. Okay. I think this is a really good example of stuff. So they over chase onto Irelia, and she had multiple options here, right? She could have E'd like this to here to get the stun on the over chase, and then she additionally could do this, right? Which is she casts the ulti, gets the Q reset, and then gets the E while they're kind of trapped into her ulti. So I think that this is a really good example of Irelia play. I'm surprised usually they show like I think 2 clips. I'm surprised they really only show 1. And yes, this is with a 3-level lead, so like this is probably pretty unrealistic, or a 2-level lead. But I would say this highlights her play pattern quite a bit. When to use each one of her abilities, and it does a good job. So I actually love the base skin. I love Infiltrator skin, and Aviator has always been my favorite skin on this, with Order to Lotus being second. So this is for people who... Wait, is this Infiltrator? This is Knight. Wait, this is Infiltrator. Anyways, overall, I think Irelia is just... At least personally, I like the way that Riot took the champion. I think that a lot of problems I had with her currently, even though if she was strong, she still had a really high problematic like way of playing, where there wasn't a way to outplay her damage sources, and it just felt like she was a stat monster. Whereas now I feel like, you know, she's very, 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 very unique in what she does, and you can do a lot with her and a lot against her, because you know you can flash her ulti, you can flash her E, and I think there's a lot of ways you can kind of work around her strengths. So a lot of these situations you see her in the best case scenario, but I think that like she's still going to be relatively hard to get out of lane and get to the point where she gets to become a monster. I mean, it's not just flash, right? You can use any movement ability to dodge it. Whereas before, you can't really dodge Irelia stun. You just die if you get hit with it, right? All right. Anyways, that's my general thoughts. Good rundown. Good coverage on Irelia. Let me go play some ads and then try to figure out if Lily's available. I'll be right back.